Still today, the quiet storm in NASA is growing louder each day, and our opposition core principals are set to meet in a bid to quell the growing discontent ahead of Raila's planned oath on 30th of this month. Will NASA survive? And in Jubilee, things are not different either, with cabinet lobbying in top gear, plus the focus on Governor Mike Sonko after his deputy Polycarp Igathe left City Hall unceremoniously. What next? Welcome to The Way It Is. And joining me in studio to steer this conversation further to my immediate left is Michael Agwanda. Next to him is Professor Kagwanja. And last but not least is Steve Ogola. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us here on Morning Express. Now, I'll start with what happened on Friday. Polycarp Igathe resigned as the Deputy Governor of Nairobi County. Before we get into it, maybe you can start with your comments. I'll start with you, Michael.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning to our viewers as well. This is the first of its kind. No deputy governor has dared even to resign. No governor has even contemplated, other than Kibutha Kibwana at one point.
Yes.
But no one has actually put pen to paper to say, I have resigned, like Polycarp Igathe of Nairobi County. I remember former Governor Ruto,
yes,
Isaac Ruto, even firing his deputy governor, but he did not have the constitutional mandate to fire him. In fact, he was not going to the office. They were still drawing salaries. At that particular point, I think even his salary was withdrawn for a while. But of course, he had no powers to fire his deputy governor.
Yes.
The Constitution is very clear on who calls the shot in the county, and that is the governor.
Yeah.
The deputy principal is a ceremonious position that comes with the governor and in the Constitution. However, there is, as everybody has said, a lacuna in law where the law did not anticipate either the death of the deputy governor, the resignation of the deputy governor, and they did not, for example, put specific transitional events on how that should be carried on. And so what we were saying in Nairobi is something that I think we experienced one in Nyeri, where we have no deputy governor sitting in there. And I think it is time now the country thinks very seriously, and the Senate enacts a law that will be able to help the office of the governor, not only when the governor either passes on or resigns, or when the deputy governor resigns or passes on, or something happens, but also their responsibility. As it is now, I think the deputy governor works, at the behest of the governor. If the governor wants to appoint him to do something, he will. They say that they coordinate the work of the county, which is not necessarily based in law. I mean, the governor still calls the shot, and if the governor is not in good term, like what we saw in Machakos,
yes,
with the deputy governor, then the deputy governor will walk into his office and sit and go home and do nothing, and nobody will care about it.
All right. Professor Kagwanja, Igathe went to social media and he stated that he failed to earn the trust of Governor Mike Sonko. What is your reaction towards this?
I think the relationship between Governor Mike Sonko and Polycarp Igathe was a product of well-negotiated and well-thought-out balancing of power. And Mike Sonko really went out of his way to search for his deputy. And I am privy to the many names that he had. And there must have been a reason why he chose Polycarp Igathe. So I can understand his frustration, even as this resignation is tendered. And really, my sympathy goes to him first and foremost. Igathe, in his own right, is a very accomplished business, manager. If you go by how he did manage the Shell, bring it up to the top rank of Kenya's, oil, in the Kenya's oil industry. But the problem we have is that when you move from one station to another, you must understand the value spaces, the values that dictate certain spaces. Let's be clear. and I agree with one of the commentators that the currency of politics is not trust. The currency of politics is basically loyalty to the one who holds power on top of you. Because if that was the case, then we would use 1,001 criteria on why we should not obey our seniors. Well, I'm a professor, you are not. I hold a doctorate, you are not. You are not this and that and that. So it is the currency of politics is basically loyalty and questioning loyalty. And that's basically why Igathe's reason as to why he resigned doesn't make a lot of sense, because it simply reflects that there is lack of trust. Right. And that is a phenomenon that is cutting across, not isolated to the Sonko-Igathe issue. We have seen it in other counties where the idea of having a political governor and a technocratic deputy seems to be taking shape. So Kenya is really experimenting on a lot of things that would work, that would make counties the centers of development as we're envisioned to be. I think what is going to happen in the Nairobi case is that Jubilee is going to put its negotiational mechanism in place. They have already kicked off. And I think Sonko and Igathe will come back. They will understand each other. I don't think, I'm not dismissing Igathe's resignation, but remember, both of them belong to a party. Yes. If it was an ODM Jubilee thing, then there would be an issue. Right. But it's a Jubilee issue. So they should be able to tackle it as gentlemen and give the people of Nairobi service without having to wrangle. It's a very unnecessary wrangle. All right. Steve, I'll come to you. Prof has said that, Sonko searched very much to get Igathe. But then others have claimed that the match was misplaced from the word go. What is your opinion?
I think at first I would like to deal with the legal issues first, because we have constitutional politics and legitimacy politics issues. In terms of constitutional politics, the short and straight answer is Sonko has no mandate now in law to replace the deputy. That's a gap that can be resolved. It can be resolved in three ways. One, through judicial interpretation. Anybody in court, moving to court, and the court could read the law to accommodate an approach that allows the governor to work to designate the responsibilities being performed by the deputy to another person. The second one, and the more desirable one, is legislative intervention. I'm aware that Senator Murkomen has already initiated a bill, I think following the death of Governor Gakuru, and the subsequent assumption of office by his deputy Wahome. Now, that is one of the possible options. Then the third one is through a constitutional amendment, because you see, in terms of what we call structural integrity of the Constitution, you have two levels of government, the national government and the county government. The national government has the executive, the county government has an executive. Yes. In the national government executive, the president is allowed to appoint a cabinet secretary, to appoint his cabinet. The governor is also allowed to appoint his own sort of cabinet. The other side, we have the deputy elected at the ballot alongside the president and assisting the president. This other side, we have a deputy elected alongside the governor, assisting the governor. Then the Constitution provides for, under Article 149, the manner of replacement of the deputy if the deputy, if the deputy elected at the ballot alongside the president resigns, such as now. But there is a gap in the Constitution, is that there is no comparing provision in the Constitution to allow for replacement of the deputy. So in terms of maintenance of structural integrity of the Constitution, the more desirable approach would have been to amend the Constitution to include or insert a comparing provision, such as Article 149, in between Article 182 and 181, 180 and 182, to provide for that. But because of the challenges of amending the Constitution, it is true that sometimes you can correct or you can renovate the law through ordinary legislation. So I know one of the Murkomen bill, for instance, the Murkomen bill may plug the gap, but I want Kenyans to be aware of two challenges by passing that legislation to cure such kind of a gap. One is it exposes that office to future political exigencies. Ordinary legislation can be changed and easily as opposed to a constitutional provision. The second one, it denies us an opportunity to renovate the Constitution in the sense of maintaining that structural stability. What is provided for under the national structures, procedures, should also be provided for under county governance structures and procedures. But having said that, I think the long and short of it is that a law will be needed. In the absence of a law, let's say even if Parliament abdicates that duty, fails to pass a law, there could be a further judicial interpretation. But it is important to say that if you look at the configuration of the Constitution, the deputy governor does not really have significant role.
Okay.
Other than being the governor in waiting, or other than acting when the governor is away, the deputy governor merely performs duties delegated to him by the governor. Yes. In fact, he's not required to hold a portfolio. You know, unlike the previous national government, where even our deputy president had a portfolio. This current setup, the deputy president does not have a significant portfolio. The deputy governor does not have a significant portfolio, except those functions assigned to him by the governor. So it means that, in essence, Nairobi and Nyeri can continue to function for the next 5 years, even if there's no deputy. But there is the more urgent political legitimacy question. You see, the reason why you require these two persons to be elected at the ballot is because you could use that for political negotiation, and it can be presumed that Igade brought a certain constituency. So if his abrupt withdrawal what it may mean, it may effectively demoralize the people who voted for Sonko on the account that Igade is going to be the manager. That's what they sold. So if Sonko does not navigate around the political legitimacy questions, because the legal issues are easy to deal with, the political ramifications are more difficult to deal with, and those are the things that he needs to attend to.
All right. We want to take a short break here on Morning Express, but when we come back, we'll talk about the Igade issue further.